Item 6, city staff discussion.
We have a couple of follow-up items for you based on some issues that we were tracking and some questions that have come up in some past meetings. So first I wanted to give you an update on the Pacific Bay Vista's stormwater treatment measures. So as a reminder, larger development projects these days are required to contain stormwater on site and treat them typically through bioretention treatment measures. So those are landscape-based treatment measures where the water goes through, some of it infiltrates, and then it goes typically out to an underdrain and then connects into the system. So in Pacific Bay Vistas, as they've been doing the renovation, they have been implementing stormwater treatment measures consistent with today's requirements. Those requirements come from the Regional Water Quality Control Board as implementation of the Clean Water Act. And so in this case, there are a number of different stormwater treatment measures located throughout the site. There's a couple of different retention areas, and then some what people usually call flow-through planters and things like that, where the water goes through and cleans up a little bit before it goes into the system. So as I've mentioned before, the city has contracted with an outside engineering firm that has specialized knowledge in this field of stormwater treatment. Our engineering staff leads this effort to implement the municipal regional permit and the stormwater treatment requirements. And so it's actually our development review engineer that works on these issues directly in collaboration with planning staff. So in this case, we've contracted with CSG engineers, and you've heard of them before. They also do plan check services for us, but they have a separate division of staff that is very knowledgeable on stormwater treatment. So they've been doing our plan reviews for us, as well as helping staff with inspections. So in this particular case, CSG engineers, as well as our own city staff, have been out to the field 2 different times. The first time we did find the stormwater treatment measures to be non-compliant and provided them a correction list. These inspections are required by the stormwater permit, by the regional permit. And then most recently, staff and CSG staff were out again on August 2nd and still found some issues that were non-compliant. And so they are still working on those, bringing those into compliance. It is a very strict engineered system, even though it looks like landscaping when it's finished. And so they're required to meet all of those specifications for installation and required to make sure that it meets all of those approved plans. And so the current status is that what you see there today is partially compliant, but they still have some corrections, and they will be required to correct them before the site is closed out.
And I'd like to continue with Pacific Bay Vistas. As you may have seen in the paper or heard, Pacific Bay Vistas had a grand opening this past week, and there was a ribbon cutting, and there are approximately 35 units that are now leased out. So the project is, as you know, 308 units total. They've released 3 buildings. They're leasing out those buildings, and there seems to be quite an interest in that property. So things are moving along there. Also, we had talked not too long ago about the remediation site on El Camino Real, and you may have noticed that's at about 160, 170 El Camino Real, and you may have noticed that a lot of the piping is now removed, and so they are cleaning that site up. It is slow, but at least at this point, the piping, the above-ground piping, is pretty much removed from that site. In addition, Vice Chair Peterson came by and we talked a little bit about this matter of the findings, and this issue came up a little bit more tonight from one of the public members about trying to make our findings a little bit more clear. And I appreciated sitting down with our commissioner and looking at the findings and looking at the specific municipal code sections from which they were drawn. And as a result, I think we're going to fine-tune our wording somewhat to make sure that the wording is consistent, and also list the municipal code sections in your staff report so that as people review those findings, they can see specifically where those findings came from. They can look up in the municipal code. So Vice Chair Peterson was able to provide that information, and we'll be incorporating that into our staff report. So I would expect at your next meeting in October that as we have required findings, we'll fine-tune, make consistent the language, and also reference the specific code sections. So we'll be doing that. So I think that'll be an improvement. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Lastly, there was the issue of White Way that came up recently, and I just want to refresh everybody's memories. At the November Planning Commission meeting, November 2012 Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission approved a use permit request for a used car dealership at 675 El Camino Real. The site is surrounded by Keynes Avenue to the north, Angus Avenue to the south, and White Way to the east. As you know, White Way is a one-way street currently running in the southern direction between Keynes Avenue and Angus Avenue. At that November Planning Commission meeting, Commissioner Marshall requested that staff look into the possibility of changing the direction of White Way to run in the northern direction between Angus and Keynes Avenue. We did check in with the Public Services staff member, who's the staff contact for the TSPC, which stands for Transportation Safety and Parking Committee. The Public Services staff representative stated that TSPC review and City Council approval would be required to change the direction of White Way. A traffic study would be required to fully analyze and evaluate the need to change the traffic flow direction. Additionally, the TSPC staff person stated it would be important to get the support of the businesses located on Keynes Avenue, as they do have a private parking lot near the entry point at White Way. Analysis was temporarily put on hold as the building located at the exit point of White Way, which is 601 El Camino Real, was vacant for many months. However, recently a new furniture retail store has occupied the site. As such, the Public Services staff will analyze the request in the near future to determine if it warrants TSPC review. Thank you.
That concludes our updates for you. And the next item on the agenda has to do with the Commission selecting your Architecture Review Committee members for the October Architecture Review Committee members. So we'd ask you to select 3 of your members to go forward in October. So Commissioner Samut, Commissioner Johnson, one more. Commissioner Chase, 4.
Oh, excuse me, Commissioner Marshall, I think had his hand up before I
I'm
did.
sorry. Commissioner Marshall?
If you want to, I'll be an alternate, but if, you know.
So it looks like we have Commissioner Samut, Commissioner Marshall, and Commissioner Johnson, correct?
Let me know.
Great, thank you.